yeshivas. It's getting harder and harder for big families to pay for their children's yeshivas. So yes, I agree with Joe Lazar that we just got a $1 trillion stimulus. Now, I think we should increase the tax credits. Why? Because these families that have children of 10 children in their family, they could be paying for yeshivas, private schools, close to $50,000, $60,000 a year. And I believe there are many ways that we can help our community. Like right now, Mayor Bloomberg just proposed a document to cut $10.8 million from the fire department. Now this is a desperately need. If this is a program that we need in our community, we need firefighters to respond to every single 911 call. And they have to be there in case of any emergencies that we have in our community. Also, developers, we have to get more jobs in our community. That's the reason why I'm going to be for tax reimbursements for developers to build buildings and create affordable housing in our community.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, Greenfield.
You know, I actually couldn't disagree more with my opponents, and let me tell you why. I think in the budget process and the budget system, we have to come up with innovative ways on how we can actually deliver services for our community. Let me give you one such idea. It's really very simple. Right now, let's talk about education specifically. Right now, the city spends $3,000 per child on varsity transportation. Now, many children in our community do not benefit from varsity transportation because of the schedule, because of the fact that Kanai we have 10, 12 kids, and varsity wants you to go on a corner. They can send you to 6 different corners. And so most yeshivas and most Catholic schools as well, they charge separately for transportation. And so this is actually a conversation that I actually already had with the Deputy Mayor for Education and the Deputy Mayor for Government, and we discussed the concept that instead of the city spending $3,000 on varsity transportation, let them give parents a $2,000 voucher. And that is plenty, because that is much more than what the yeshivas charge for transportation. And here's the great thing about this idea. This is an idea over here. The yeshivas will save money, the parents will save money, and the city will save money. And so the Deputy Mayor goes with me. And he asked me, and he said, what are we going to do with all this spare money? And I said, you know what we're going to do, Deputy Mayor? We're going to use that money to pay for the MTA Metro cards that they're trying to get rid of for our students. I just want to make one final point because Malcolm is getting up, and that is, just to correct Joe on a very important fact. The tax credits that we got in Albany were refundable tax credits. So even if you make $0, you pay 0 taxes, you get $330 per child. And so, I don't know about you, but where I come from in Boro Park, if you have 10 kids, $3,300 is a whole lot of money.
When we're talking about new spending programs, I agree with my friend here, Joe Lazar, but I think there's a very important distinction to be made here. We do have to fight for more funding, but we have to keep in mind what funding is really important. Now, everyone can throw out the red meat of education, everyone can throw out the red meat of affordable housing, but let's face the facts here. Right now, the mayor last year had to cut 1,000 new officers patrolling our streets. We have to cut back on the number of firehouses that are serving our communities and keep our communities safe. And as you know, in Benson recently there was a massive fire that was very devastating. And the last thing that we can afford to have is a slower response time for those firefighters to get to an emergency. We're talking about cuts on our seniors, cuts on senior centers and Meals on Wheels programs and a number of other programs for seniors. We're talking about cuts for child care services. Right now, we cannot responsibly afford to increase our spending when we could barely afford to keep the services that keep us safe and keep our streets clean on a daily basis. We have to be responsible here. Now, of course, the city councilman has to go out there and fight for as much funding as we can get, and we do that through prioritization. The most important thing we could do is understand, right now, we cannot give refundable tax credits that dig us deeper into a hole in the deficit. That'll bring us back, by the way, to God forbid, the 1970s fiscal crisis and the tax borrowing spending plan. cannot afford it anymore. And so, to sum up this part of it, let's be responsible. We all know we're going through tough times. The last thing we can afford to do is increase the burden of taxes and fines and all this spending that we don't have the money to pay for. And let's focus on getting our essential services funded first. And when we come out of this, because we will come out of this economic recession, and we'll come out of it stronger than we entered it, we will be able to provide the funding for those services that we do need to work on expanding, and we'll do it responsibly and effectively. And that's the most important thing we can do.
I must request of any people who are in the back or anywhere else in the room who have come here and put up placards, signs, pasted them to the walls. You notice we were very careful not to put anything on the wall. Even we put our own banner. It was hung from the ceiling. Please do not destroy this building. The Y has been gracious enough to give us the building this evening. Please do not hang anything on the walls. You're destroying the paint. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was asked to acknowledge the presence of District Manager of the Borough Park Community Board. Welcome, Wolf Sender. Thank you for being here. And with the panel's permission, we'll continue with the panel's questions in a moment. The next question is from the audience, and this one is directed at Avraham Shlomo Tischler. This audience member is curious what your stance is on congestion pricing.
Now, that is a great question. I know me personally, there are a lot of problems out there. And I think that I will definitely, once I become councilman, I will definitely review that problem. I think personally that there are many other issues pertaining our community that needs to be done. And that is more jobs in our community, more tax reimbursements. This way there's affordable housing. But then again, also keeping the lower zoning laws. There's a lot of things that needs to be done in our community that could be done as long as we have people that are united as a community and people that are willing to work together and help our community as a whole.
Thank you, Nachum. I have to say I'm absolutely unequivocally opposed to congestion pricing. I don't call it congestion pricing, I call it a tax on middle-class people who live in Brooklyn. Because that's exactly what it is. This is a plan for the rich people in Manhattan who don't want to have traffic on their streets. And they figured out, well, this is great. All we have to do is tell the middle-class people, in order to get to Manhattan, we're going to have to pay a tax of $10, and that way we can avoid having them go into the city. It's outrageous. It's irresponsible. It hurts regular people who go into work every day. It hurts organizations like Hatzalah and Chaver who work on behalf of the community. It hurts every big home group when they go and they volunteer. And I can give you a perfect example. My mother actually is sitting here in the audience. She volunteers with Representative Segula, and she takes people into Manhattan who need treatment or who need to visit other people. It's unacceptable, and I'm unequivocally opposed to this tax on the middle-class residents of our community.
I love the fact that I have the opportunity to answer this question. I was actually one of the most outspoken opponents of congestion pricing, and proudly so. In 2007, I started legislation called Stop NYC Congestion Tax. I stood proudly with now Assemblyman David Rembrandt. I stood proudly with many other council members, including Assemblymember Richard Brodsky, to oppose congestion pricing. It is a very bad plan for the middle class. What people don't realize is how important it is for middle class people to use their vehicles to take care of their families. And so this was a big mistake, I believe, as a plan from the mayor's office. It was certainly done without major consultation with the community, with community boards, with community leaders in the areas that would be the most adversely affected by the plan. It was a tax on the middle class. In fact, I debated on the Upper East Side with a fellow from the Manhattan Institute and a DOT policy advisor, and we were able to convince the audience at the end of the night that this was a no-good tax that was just going to add another burden to the middle class of New York City residents, and including the people who come from outside the city, who help provide the revenue and services that make our city the greatest city in the world.